Hi, I'm Umbreon Libris, and this is my Pokemon Violet Adventure Journal. The bulk of what I spent the last few days on was just getting all of the Pokemon that I needed to complete the Pokédex. I spent a long time getting all of the evolutions that I didn't have yet. Mostly I evolved them by going into Area 0 with a team of 1 viable Pokemon, and then 5 Pokemon that needed experience, and then just doing a bunch of battles there. But for Pokemon that evolve especially late, like Noivern and a bunch of the pseudo-legendaries, I just pumped them full of experience candy. To the point that I actually ran out of experience candy. There were still a few Pokemon that I had to catch though, like version exclusives that I'd traded away, so I needed a new one, and Pokemon that mostly appear in trees, Pokemon like Bounsweet, Pineco, Slackoth, and a second Applin. I spent so long looking up trees to find these Pokemon, and eventually I did find a Pineco, but for all of the others, I had to breed them. At one point I was running around looking for a place where it might be raining so that I could evolve my Sliggoo into a Goodra, and I just happened to find a blue stake. It wasn't the last one though, and so my friend Ethan, who you know as editor of a lot of my recent videos, including this entire series, he was on voice chat with me and helped me find the last stake. And we did it pretty quickly, so I went back to the shrine and unlocked Chi-Yu. I really like the idea of a goldfish made of fire, and the beads for eyes look really good, but it's also the least interesting to me of the entire set. Ethan also helped me search for the last of the orange stakes. This took a bit longer to find, but thankfully I was only missing one, so eventually I was able to unlock Chien-Pao, which is awesome. I was a little bit wary of this Pokemon's design when I saw it in the silhouette on the Pokédex, but a cross between a weasel and a snow leopard is awesome. The broken sword fangs are also really cool, and I immediately KO'd it. Alright, I guess I'll have to wait an in-game day or something and then come back here. Thankfully, by this point, my friend Flora was ready to host a Union Circle. Flora has Scarlet, so we were going to go to their Area 0 for me to catch all of the Pastmon. We touch-traded a few version exclusives that I didn't have yet, and then we headed into the crater. I was told that it could be a little bit tricky to get the spawns in Area 0 because you have to be— wait, hang on. That's a palindrome for a giraffe! Now that's what Giraffe Rig should have evolved into! I love it. Anyway, so I'd been told that in Area 0 you can't see each other, but you have to be close by in order for the spawns to actually appear in both games. So we were prepared for a challenge, but after just a few minutes, Flora suddenly appears on my screen. They still cannot see me, but I can see them, and thankfully I was able to share my screen in our Discord call, so that made things a lot easier. We could just have Flora lead and I follow, and we would very easily be able to stick together. This Screamtail appeared on my game at the same time as Flora did, to the point where I actually thought it was following Flora, but no, it was wild. And it's a very simple iteration on Jigglypuff, but I think it's effective. It's certainly not my favorite, but I like it just fine. Just a little farther along, we encountered a Slithermoth, another version of Volcarona that makes it way cooler than the original. I thought it was interesting too that this one keeps the bug type, while the Iron Moth keeps the fire type. I just kind of wish that Slithermoth was bug dragon. It just looks more like a dragon than bug fighting. But either way, I think it looks awesome. Finding all of the other Pastmon wasn't so easy. The spawns seem to be a lot more sparse than when I'm here by myself. But the next one we found was Sandy Shocks, and I recognized it from the silhouette in the Pokédex. It was one that I had been very confused by. I was like, why does this look like a circuitry? So when I finally saw it, understood what it really was, it was completely unexpected, and it really shows that they took different approaches to these Pastmon, which is really refreshing because all of the Futuremon have the same approach. They are all just take the original and make it a robot. I also appreciate that these Pokemon have unique names, whereas again, the Futuremon are all Iron Blank. It was a bit of a struggle for me to catch the Sandy Shock, so we kind of used that opportunity to have a little fun with the glitch that kept Flora on my screen, even though they weren't supposed to be there. But I did eventually kidnap the Sandy Shocks. Next up was the Brute Bonnet. It was easily the least exciting of the Pastmon, but it was interesting to suggest that the design of Pokeballs is actually way older than actual Pokeballs. In the cave of Iron Valiant, we found Roaring Moon. This was the really cool silhouette that I'd seen in the Pokédex that I was really excited by, and the real thing does not disappoint. So this is clearly a Mega Salamence, which made me realize that the Iron Valiant is also Megas. It's a Mega Gardevoir and a Mega Gallade. On the way down into the shadowy depths of the cave, we spot a shiny Dunsparce. It's actually the third shiny that I see in my game, and the second one that is caught by Flora. There's probably been other shinies that spawned in my game and I just didn't notice them, but to this day the only one that I've caught is the Koufant. Great Tusk was the only Passmon that I already knew what it looked like. I'd seen it in Indigo's game when she was doing the Titan battle. It's very cool. And when we reached the bottom of the crater, we realized there was a problem. Apparently, this last Passmon that we still had to find only appears during the night. Or rather, it's supposed to appear during the day, but for some reason, it's bugged, and only the shiny will spawn during the day, but it's still the normal shiny rate. So we had to pass the time and wait until nightfall. And while we waited and we just kind of ran around a little bit, we spotted these two little rooms that neither of us had ever seen before. And I've spent a lot of time at the very bottom here, so there was nothing really surprising or exciting in these two little rooms, but it was weird that neither of us had spotted them before. And the other weird thing that happened is that twice, Fluttermane flashed onto my screen and then disappeared before I could get to it. They weren't shiny ones anyway, but this is the kind of thing that had I not been having fun with my friends on voice chat and also having them tell me what the glitches were that we might encounter, this would have been extremely frustrating. Thankfully, I did eventually find and catch an actual Fluttermane that stayed on my screen, and just like Jigglypuff, this one is a fairly simple iteration on Misdreavus, but still effective. It also helps that I just like Misdreavus to begin with. And with that, I have caught all of the Passmon. So thank you, Flora, for hosting, and you can keep that shiny Dunsparce as a payment. Back out of the crater, and now that an in-game day had passed, I returned to Chien-Pao. And poor me did a great job. With just 2 Thunder Punches, it left it in perfect catching condition with just 1 HP and paralyzed. With Chien-Pao caught, I had a few more evolutions to take care of. I was a little bit afraid of King Gambit because I was told how to evolve it. That is absolutely not one that I would have figured out on my own. But Indigo had a lot of trouble just finding Bisharp that had the item. So I made sure to go in prepared. I taught my Bisharp Brick Break, I made a sandwich with Encounter Power Steel, and then I just went around brick breaking every Bisharp I could find standing in a group of Pawniard. I don't know how often Wild Bisharp hold the Leader's Crest, but it only took, I think, 6 battles before my Bisharp evolved. So then I just had those few tree-bound Pokemon that I still hadn't found. And a picnic with just Ditto and Tsarina did not yield any eggs after like 20 minutes. I had to actually go and buy egg power because I had run out of the sandwich ingredients to make a sandwich myself, and only then did I finally get an egg and hatch a Bounsweet. I did not expect Bounsweet to be the last Pokemon that I add to my Pokédex. But that meant that I had 400 out of 400, so I reported back to Jacques and picked up the Shiny Charm and the Pokédex certificate. While I was at the academy, I also saw Penny, Nimona, and Arvin a few times, and those were nice little character stories to close off the game, and also to very clearly set up either a sequel or, I think more likely, a DLC. Arvin even points out both the hexagon disc monster and the weird discrepancy between what Alturo told us about the setup of the time machine and the weird sightings of Paradoxmon from before that time. So there's very clearly more to the story, but I think at least for now, that's it. I will probably do a few raids and outbreaks here and there, but I don't think I'm going to spend much time playing on this file until the DLC comes out. I still have my other game to finish, and I also want to be ready for a potential third game when home compatibility releases. I'm planning to have my Paldea Living Dex completely sorted, so that once home compatibility is released, I can just transfer the entire Pokédex into a brand new file and unlock the Shiny Charm as early as possible. It's something that I've always wanted to do, but for the longest time, the Shiny Charm was only available really late into the game, even if your Pokédex was complete earlier than that. So at least for this time, it looks like there's no reason that a shiny charm wouldn't be unlockable really early. Anyway, this is going to be the last episode of the journal for now, but we'll pick up again once there's DLC. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next chapter.